All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is, absolutely fundamental to how AI works, but it's something most of us never even see. We're talking about the tiny little pieces that let these huge language models actually understand us. And it really all kicks off with one big question.
So, how does an AI actually read? I mean, you type a sentence into a chat window, what happens next? It's really easy to just imagine it reading the words just like you and I do, right? But what's really going on under the hood is, well, it's way cooler and kind of different.
Yeah, it's not like you think. They don't. At least not in any way that we would recognize as reading. See, an AI can't just look at a whole sentence or paragraph and get it. It has to break our messy, complicated language down into something its computer brain can actually process. Okay, so that brings us to what AIs actually read. Before we can get how they think, we first have to wrap our heads around what they see when they look at our text. And spoiler alert, it isn't words. It's something much, much more basic. The best way to think about it is like this. They're basically the building blocks of language, but for a computer. Before an AI can do anything with what you've written, it has to chop it up into these really simple, manageable pieces. So what do we call these building blocks? Well, they have a name, and it's the most important word you're going to hear today. Tokens. These are the real heart of the matter. So what is a token, officially? Well, a token is the most basic piece of text that a large language model, an LLM, can understand. Everything it reads, everything it writes back to you, is all just a big sequence of these tokens. It doesn't see the word hello, it sees the token for hello. And here's where it gets interesting. A token isn't always just one word. Sometimes, sure, it's a whole word like cat or run. Sometimes it's just a single character, like the letter A or a punctuation mark. But here's the really brilliant part. Most of the time, tokens are subwords. Think prefixes like un or suffixes like able. These little pieces are where the real power comes from.
Right. So how do we actually make sense of all this text? How does my sentence get turned into these little token building blocks? Well, there's a name for that process, and it happens literally every single time you talk to an AI.
It's called tokenization. And honestly, the best way to imagine it is like a super smart food processor for language. It takes your input sentence and dices it up into this perfect sequence of tokens that the AI can actually digest.
Now, this chopping process isn't random. It's really smart. It's run by clever algorithms. Two of the big ones you'll hear about are BPE, or byte pair encoding, which is amazing at finding those common subword pieces. And then there's sentence piece, which is fantastic because it helps the AI handle lots of different languages all in the same way.
Let's take a perfect example. The word unbelievable. Instead of learning that as one giant, unique word, a smart algorithm like BPE looks at it and goes, hey, I've seen these parts before. So it splits it up into 3 tokens: un, believe, and able. This is so much more efficient. Now the AI knows what those 3 little pieces mean, and it can use them to figure out thousands of other words. So what happens to all these little pieces? All the whole words, the single characters, and all those super useful subwords. They all get collected together to create a massive vocabulary for the AI. This is its entire library of language.
So, just how big are we talking? A typical vocabulary for a big AI model has somewhere around, say, 50,000 unique tokens. 50,000! That's a huge set of building blocks, and it's what lets the AI understand and create such a crazy variety of language.
Okay, so that's the what. Now for the really important part. Why tokens matter. Why should you, as someone who uses AI, actually care about any of this? Because trust me, it has a very real impact on your experience. It really comes down to 2 big things that you've probably already run into, even if you didn't know what to call them. It's all about limits and efficiency. Okay, let's tackle these one by one. First up, token limits. You know how sometimes in a really long conversation with an AI, it seems to just forget what you said at the beginning? That's because of token limits. Every model has a maximum number of tokens it can remember at once. That's its context window. If you go over that limit, the oldest stuff just falls out of its memory. Then there's token efficiency. This is huge. How smartly the text is broken into tokens affects, well,
Everything. The speed of the model, how accurate its answers are, and yes, even how much it costs to use, since a lot of services charge you by the token. A more efficient system means a faster, smarter, and cheaper AI. So when you boil it all down, tokens are really the alphabet of AI. They're the letters, the syllables, the fundamental pieces these programs use to read our world and write their answers. And it leaves you with a really fascinating question. As this alphabet gets smarter and more complex, what kind of stories will AI be able to write next?